The Christmas lights strung across Bellini's restaurant cast a golden glow over the crowded tables. Clara Matthews felt the vibrations of holiday music through the wooden floor, a distant, physical pulse that never reached her ears. She watched couples laughing, families toasting, servers weaving between tables with steaming plates of food. The restaurant hummed with a life she could see but not hear. Across from her sat an empty chair, the napkin crumpled beside an untouched glass of wine. 10 minutes ago, that chair had held David, her third date in as many months. Now it held only the weight of another rejection. Clara's fingers traced the condensation on her water glass. She'd worn her best dress, emerald green velvet that matched her eyes, and styled her chestnut hair in loose waves. She'd applied her makeup carefully, practiced her speech in the mirror for an hour. All for nothing. David had seemed different at first. They'd met through a dating app where she'd been upfront about being deaf. He'd seemed intrigued, even enthusiastic. "I've always wanted to learn sign language," he'd typed during their first coffee date. Clara had smiled, hopeful despite her better judgment. Tonight had started well. The hostess had seated them at a corner table, Clara's request to make lip-reading easier. David had arrived on time, handsome in a blue sweater that brought out his eyes. But as the evening progressed, his smile had grown strained. His phone had appeared more frequently. The pauses between his sentences had stretched longer. Then came the moment that replayed now in Clara's mind, David sliding his phone across the table with a note typed out. "I'm sorry, but this isn't working. It's Christmas Eve and I feel like I'm sitting in silence. I can't keep repeating everything. I can't deal with the waiters looking at me weird when I order for both of us. I thought I could handle this, but I can't." Clara had stared at the words, her chest tightening. She'd looked up to find David already standing, wallet out. "I've paid for the drinks," he'd said, his lips forming words she could read all too clearly. "Merry Christmas." And then he was gone, weaving through the festive crowd, leaving Clara alone at a table set for two. Now she sat, fighting back tears, watching families share bread and stories. A server approached, concern evident in her expression. Clara shook her head and pointed to her menu. She would order something small and leave with dignity intact. The server nodded and disappeared. Clara's fingers moved instinctively, signing to no one, "Merry Christmas to me." The vibration of her phone drew her attention. A text from her mother, "How's the date going? Will we meet him tomorrow?" Clara slipped the phone back into her purse without responding. Tomorrow she would craft a gentle lie. Tonight, she would allow herself this moment of grief, not just for David, but for all the Davids before him who couldn't handle the silence. Across the restaurant, Clara noticed two identical little girls in matching red dresses watching her. They sat at a large table with what appeared to be their father, a tall man with kind eyes who was busy studying the menu. The twins, perhaps 7 years old with blonde hair in perfect braids, kept glancing her way. Clara offered a small smile, then looked down at her hands. Children often stared at her when she signed. She was used to it. When she looked up again, the twins were gone from their table. Clara scanned the restaurant, then startled as she felt a light tap on her arm. The twins stood beside her table, their blue eyes serious beneath matching bangs. Clara prepared herself for the usual curious questions children asked when their parents weren't watching. Instead, the girl on the left raised her hands and signed with surprising fluidity. "Can we join you?" Clara's breath caught. Her hands responded automatically, signing back. "You know sign language?" Both girls nodded enthusiastically. The second twin signed, "Our brother is deaf. He's 3. We're learning with him." Clara felt an electric jolt of connection, the sudden, unexpected joy of being understood. Her hands moved. "What are your names?" "I'm Emma," signed the first twin. "I'm Lily," signed the second. "You looked sad. Are you alone on Christmas?" Clara hesitated, then signed, "My date left." He didn't like that. I couldn't hear. The twins exchanged glances, their expressions indignant. Emma signed, "That's mean. Our brother is the best person ever, and he can't hear either." Lily nodded vigorously, then added, "Dad says people who can't see with their hearts miss the best things in life." Clara felt warmth spread through her chest, not pity, but understanding. These children saw her, truly saw her, in a way David never had. "Girls!" A deep voice called from across the restaurant. Clara looked up to see the twins' father approaching, concern etched on his face. He was tall with broad shoulders and dark blonde hair that fell across his forehead. His expression softened when he reached the table. "I'm so sorry," he said, his lips easy to read as he addressed Clara. "They wandered off while I was ordering." Clara shook her head and smiled. She reached for her phone, typed quickly, and showed him the screen. "It's fine. They were just saying hello. They know sign language." The man's face brightened with understanding. "You're deaf. The girls noticed you signing to yourself." He turned to his daughters. "Were you being polite?" To Clara's surprise, he signed the question as he spoke it, his movements less practiced than his daughter's but clear and intentional. Emma signed back. Her date left her alone on Christmas because she can't hear. "Can she eat with us?" The man's expression shifted from surprise to gentle understanding. He looked at Clara, then signed while speaking, "I'm Jack. These are my daughters, Emma and Lily. We'd be honored if you'd join our table, but only if you want to. No pressure." His hands moved with the careful precision of someone who had learned sign language as an adult, someone who had put in the effort to learn a new language not out of necessity, but out of love. Clara hesitated. She'd planned to eat quickly and retreat to her apartment, to lick her wounds in private. But the twins were looking at her with such hopeful expressions, and their father's eyes held no pity, only warmth and a hint of something that might have been admiration. She typed on her phone, "I'm Clara. I wouldn't want to intrude on your family dinner." Jack read her message and smiled. "It's just us tonight. My parents are in Florida, and the girl's mother passed away 4 years ago. We were actually just saying our table felt too big for 3. He signed as he spoke, his movements growing more confident. "Plus, the girls would love to practice with someone besides me and their little brother." Clara felt a flutter in her chest, not the anxious flutter she'd felt with David, but something lighter, more hopeful. She gathered her purse and coat and nodded. Emma and Lily beamed, each taking one of Clara's hands as they led her to their table in the corner. A high chair sat empty, presumably for the brother they'd mentioned. "Noah is with our aunt tonight," Lily signed when she caught Clara looking at the high chair. "He gets overwhelmed in restaurants sometimes." Jack pulled out a chair for Clara, then settled the twins before sitting across from her. The girls have been learning sign language since Noah was diagnosed at 6 months, he explained, his hands moving in tandem with his words. They're better than me now. They absorb it like sponges. Clara signed, their signing is beautiful. Very expressive. Jack translated for himself, then smiled with pride. They're determined to make sure their brother never feels left out. The server approached, and Clara braced herself for the awkward dance that always followed, the confused looks, the shifting eyes, the eventual surrender to writing things down. But before the server could speak, Emma signed the specials to Clara, translating from the server's verbal description. Dad already ordered appetizers, Lily signed. The arancini here is amazing. Clara felt a lump form in her throat. How many times had she sat in restaurants, struggling to follow conversations, dependent on written notes or the patience of companions? Yet here were these two little girls, bridging worlds effortlessly, making space for her at their table and in their conversation. As the evening progressed, Clara learned that Jack was an architect who worked from home to be available for Noah's therapy appointments. The twins were in 2nd grade and took their role as big sisters seriously. They signed every conversation, switching between spoken English and ASL with the natural bilingualism of children. How did you become deaf? Emma asked with the direct curiosity of childhood. Emma, Jack cautioned, that might be personal. Clara shook her head and signed, it's okay. I was born this way. I've never heard anything. Not even music? Lily asked, her hands forming the question with a dancer's grace. Clara smiled. I feel music. The vibrations, the rhythm. I can tell when something is fast or slow, happy or sad. Jack translated for himself, then asked, do you dance? Clara nodded. I love to dance. I follow the vibrations through the floor. Jack's eyes lit up. The girls take ballet. They're always trying to teach me, but I have 2 left feet. He's terrible, Emma signed with dramatic emphasis. Like a giraffe on roller skates. Clara laughed, a full, genuine laugh that she felt vibrate in her chest. Jack's cheeks flushed, but he laughed too, his eyes crinkling at the corners. As they shared tiramisu and espresso, hot chocolate for the twins, Clara found herself relaxing in a way she rarely did in public. There was no strain to read lips, no pressure to speak clearly, no awkward pauses while someone wrote down what others were saying. The conversation flowed between hands and voices, between adults and children, between strangers becoming something more. When Jack excused himself to take a phone call from the aunt watching Noah, the twins leaned toward Clara conspiratorially. Our dad thinks you're pretty, Lily signed, her small hands moving quickly. He keeps fixing his hair when you're not looking. Emma nodded solemnly. He hasn't invited anyone to eat with us since Mom died. Just you. Clara felt her cheeks warm. He's just being kind, she signed back. The twins exchanged knowing glances. Dad says kindness is the most important thing, Emma signed. But he also says you have eyes like forest pools. He did not say that. Clara signed, laughing. Not out loud, Lily clarified. But we can tell. We're very smart. Jack returned to find all 3 of them giggling. What did I miss? He asked, his hands forming the question. Nothing, all three signed in unison, which only made them laugh harder. Outside, snow had begun to fall, fat, lazy flakes that caught in the glow of the street lamps. As they prepared to leave, Clara felt a pang of regret. The evening had been a gift she hadn't expected, a moment of belonging in a world that often left her feeling apart. Jack helped the twins into their coats, then turned to Clara. "Where are you parked? It's getting slippery out there." Clara signed, "I took the bus. My apartment is just a few blocks away." Jack frowned. "It's late on Christmas Eve. Let us drive you home." The twins added their pleas, their small hands signing, "please," with exaggerated emphasis. In the car, the twins fell asleep almost immediately, the excitement of the evening catching up with them. Jack drove carefully through the snowy streets, occasionally glancing at Clara beside him. At a red light, he turned to her and signed one-handed, "Thank you for joining us tonight." Clara tilted her head questioningly. "The holidays have been hard since their mother died," he explained, his free hand forming the words with surprising eloquence. "Tonight is the first time I've seen them so animated at Christmas." "You gave them that?" Clara shook her head and signed, "They gave me something too. Connection. Understanding." The light turned green, and Jack drove the final blocks to her apartment building in comfortable silence. When he parked, Clara expected a polite goodbye. Instead, Jack reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small notebook. He wrote something, then handed it to her. "Noah has therapy at the Children's Center on Thursdays. They have a parent coffee hour while the kids are in session. Would you consider joining me sometime? The twins would love to see you again." "So would I." Clara read his words, then looked up to find Jack watching her with hopeful eyes. Not pitying. Not curious. Just hopeful. She took the pen and wrote beneath his invitation, "I'd like that very much." As she stepped out into the snowy night, Clara glanced back at the car, at the sleeping twins and their father who had learned a new language out of love. A man who saw silence not as a barrier but as simply another way of being in the world. Clara had entered the restaurant that evening feeling rejected and alone. She was leaving it with something unexpected, a connection that transcended words, that existed in the eloquent dance of hands and the understanding of hearts. True communication, she realized, had never been about the ears. It had always been about being truly seen. True communication isn't about the ears, it's about the heart. Have you ever felt understood by a complete stranger? Tell us your small miracle story in the comments. If this story touched your heart and reminded you how powerful a parent's love can be, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue sharing emotional and inspiring stories like this one. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload, and feel free to share this video with someone who believes in love, sacrifice, and second chances.